You're listening to Health Coach Conversations, a podcast where our conversations help health coaches all around the world to level up our businesses and to get more clients. Hello and welcome. I am Cathy Sykora, founder of the Health Coach Group and host for Health Coach Conversations. I am here today with Dr. Michelle May. She is a recovered yo-yo dieter and former family physician. She's the founder of Am I Hungry? Mindful Eating and Training at www.amihungry.com. Over 800 wellness professionals have been trained to offer Am I Hungry? Mindful eating programs. She's the author of the Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat book series that teaches mindful eating to help individuals resolve mindless and emotional eating and senseless yo-yo dieting to live the vibrant life they crave. She's an associate professor at Arizona State University and co-authored a paper on weight-inclusive healthcare. Our topic today is Am I Hungry? Mindful Eating Programs and Training. So you are in the business, you are a former family physician, and now you work with yo-yo dieters, right?
Yeah, I actually work with anybody who struggles with their eating. Yo-yo dieting being one area that very common area. As you probably know, lots of people struggle with being on one diet, off one diet. I call it the eat, repent, repeat cycle. But I also work with people who have diabetes and are trying to manage it, or people who've had bariatric or weight loss surgery and are struggling again. We have a binge eating program. I teach a class at Arizona State University. We do coaching. We have a yoga program. So any group of people who want to, or individuals who want to have a healthier relationship with food can really benefit from learning mindful eating.
Okay, and then just to clarify, our listeners are health coaches, doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, nurses, and then life coaches, people who are working in the wellness industry and lifestyle management industry. So, and we create programs for them to use. And in our programs, at the beginning of anything that starts with nutrition, we have a information sheet on how to recognize an eating disorder and what to do if you recognize an eating disorder, because health coaches really, they can work with lifestyle management, but there are other things, other people that they should probably send somebody with an eating disorder to, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So this is a wonderful place for us to be having this conversation. We've been training health and wellness professionals, just as the list you mentioned. We've been training health and wellness professionals since 2006 to offer these programs, because so many of them feel like they're just not helping their patients or clients as much as they could when they have eating issues beyond, hey, should I eat, whatever. I mean, we really help get in. We don't do that kind of work. Our job is not to tell people what to eat. What we do is we help people learn how to ask themselves a series of questions for deciding what to eat that aren't based on making foods good, making foods bad, feeling guilty, and so forth. And to your point, when you're working with people who have disordered eating issues, so disordered eating may not rise to the level of a diagnosable eating disorder, but you'll recognize yourself with this, and a lot of health and wellness professionals do struggle with this, is you'll recognize yourself if you're thinking about food often, especially if you're thinking about what you can and can't eat, what you ate, feeling guilty about it, worrying a lot about your weight, your appearance, and if it's taking up more time and space in your life than it really should be. I mean, it's important, but there's a lot of other things that are more important. And many people in our current culture, that we call it diet culture, don't recognize how much space these issues are taking up in their lives. And so we help people get it back into a proper proportion. When somebody may have an eating disorder, scope of practice for a lot of health and wellness professionals, not just coaches, and eating disorder treatment works
Cut out a little bit just right there, and I think it's important. You said outside of the scope of practice,
Okay.
or is
Yeah,
that
so as you were sharing, it's really important that any health and wellness professional doesn't operate outside their scope of practice. And so a referral to an eating disorder professional, therapist, dietitian, and so forth is really important. I'm a big believer in the team approach. And so we do have many of our clients who will work with their eating disorder team and do the mindful eating work, especially once they're out of the woods in terms of their issues. But, oftentimes mindful eating is the alternative to what they were doing before that may have contributed to their eating challenges in the first place.
right? Yeah. Okay, so I know we're kind of skipping around here, but you teach people how to work with patients or clients on mindful eating, right?
Yeah, I started this work back in 99 because of my own past history of struggles with eating and body image. And I kept seeing it in my medical practice. It kept coming up again and again. And of course, at that point, before that, I was still struggling. And once I kind of figured out that diets were making it worse and that I really needed to find another way to manage my eating, I did that for 7 years. We wrote our first book, we created workbooks, and I started speaking at various conferences, health and wellness conferences. And invariably, people would come up to me afterward and say, I want to learn how to do this. I want to be able to do this in my. And so that was really the seed of what is now our mindful eating trainings. And so all of our programs have an additional component of training where we train health and wellness professionals to offer the program in their practice or their community or their workplace. Wherever they're practicing, they can take the materials that we've already created, learn all the processes that we've been using for the last 25 years. This is our 25th anniversary, and use it in their own practices. And finally, develop the skills, have the tools, and have the confidence to really feel like they can make a difference for their clients.
Okay, and so is it important for them then? I mean, do you have some kind of an assessment that can tell them, I mean, very clearly if they're working with somebody who has a serious eating disorder versus yo-yo dieting, where they've just gotten into the yo-yo?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. We don't create eating disorder assessments because that already exists out there. There's lots of them. There's a screening tool called Scoff that I can send you a link to that you can put in the show notes for people that are interested. It's a pretty simple screening tool. And there are many others. On our website, we have a binge eating scale. We do have a program for binge eating that we train therapists and treatment teams to offer. So that's an important one. And that one can be difficult to discern from run-of-the-mill, I'll use air quotes here, overeating. So that scale can be very helpful. I'll send you a link to that as well. And we have what we call an eating cycle assessment. And this eating cycle assessment helps coaches and other clinicians, helps them help their clients and patients figure out whether they're primarily in an instinctive eating pattern where they're using hunger and satiety to guide their eating, whether they're in a restrictive eating pattern, which is usually based on rules and eat this, not that, and guilt, or an overeating pattern. These are the three common patterns that this eating cycle assessment screens for. But I will tell you, though, the most common pattern is a combination of restrictive eating and overeating. It's important for you to think of those as two sides of the same coin, because people often will flip back and forth. They'll eat too much, they'll feel guilty about it, then they'll go into some kind of restrictive plan. They'll either start a diet or they'll start restricting. I shouldn't eat sugar, or that's a bad food, or I'm going to get back in control, or whatever it is they're telling themselves. And so that combination of restrictive eating and overeating is what we typically see in our practices as yo-yo dieting. So that screening tool is actually being validated at Arizona State University right now. So I have the full version, but I'm hoping that we'll have our paper published soon and have a scaled down version that people can use. So it's a great tool.
Are there prerequisites for people going into your program? Is there anything that they have to have as a background or
For training?
right?
No, we don't screen. We talk about what the programs are. The only one that does have a prerequisite is our Mindful Eating for Binge Eating program. It is a therapeutic program, and there are group or individual therapy sessions that are part of the training. So you do need to have a therapist on your treatment team, but a coach or a dietitian or a nurse could run the workshops, and a therapist could run the therapy portion. Other than that, we just describe what the skills are and what the work is, and then we let people self-select. When they do the training, they complete a series. It's an online self-paced training, so they can do it on their own time. We even include a business and marketing curriculum so they can figure out if they're doing it in their practice, what they can charge and what would make the most sense that way, how to market it to people. And then at the end of the training, they take a assessment that we offer, that we require for them to pass at 100%. And once they've passed that and they've offered a sample introductory workshop, then they receive their license to offer these programs in their community. And then, of course, they have unlimited email and phone support from us to make sure that they're successful and doing the best they can to really help people in their sphere of influence to heal their relationship with food.
Right. So the people that are not working with the therapeutic end of things, are they working with lifestyle management?
It's very much lifestyle management. I tend to hesitate a little bit using that term, or even lifestyle change and that kind of thing, only because diet culture has grabbed onto that and turned it into rules and restrictions. Eat this, not that. That's a bad food. You shouldn't eat so much of those. And that's not how mindful eating works. Mindful eating is an inside out approach to eating. So, what we're really teaching people is how to ask themselves a series of questions based on the mindful eating cycle. And the mindful eating cycle guides them through the decision making process. It replaces looking food up and writing foods down and counting calories and stepping on the scale. This is it with a series of questions that help them right at the beginning figure out, okay, I want to eat. Am I actually even hungry right now? Or
Mhm.
is it possible this is stress or boredom or thirst or fatigue? What is really happening right now? And so we teach the trainers how to lead their clients and patients through those questions to figure out whether they're hungry. If they are hungry, then the next set of questions is, okay, now what am I going to eat? And there's a series of questions there. We're not telling them what to eat, we're teaching them how to figure out what they're going to eat. If they're not hungry, then they have some options. Are they going to go ahead and eat anyway, which is definitely an option? Are they going to redirect their attention to something else until they get hungry? Or are they going to figure out what their real needs are and meet those better? And of course, we have a skill set where we train people how to figure out how to read their emotions, where their emotions are coming from, and what their needs might be and how to meet them. So it's a pretty complex sounding process, but the truth is using the eating cycle blueprint that we created, it's really very transferable. It's something that I can transfer the information and the skills to you as a health and wellness professional. And in turn, you can then transfer the information and the skills to your clients and patients and really get out of the expert authoritarian style of teaching that, we know that we shouldn't be
Mhm.
doing that. We shouldn't be doing that. But lots of times people don't know what to do instead, or they don't
Right.
recognize where they're doing it unintentionally.
How can you tell the difference between restrictive eating and self-care? I know, with even especially with health coaches and people in nutrition, we can get extreme,
Yeah.
you know? And do
Yes.
we call that restrictive eating or do we call that taking care of ourselves?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, Kathy. So to me, the big differentiator between restriction and self-care is that restriction makes your life smaller. There's less things you're allowed to do, less places you can go, less things that you're allowed to eat. And so it's all about rules and being good. Self-care makes your life bigger. It gives you lots of options. And the goal of self-care or the intention of self-care is to feel better, not to be good, but to feel better. And so when people are practicing self-care, they have more energy, they have more choice. They can go anywhere. They can go on vacation or go to a party and not worry about what's going to be served because they already know that they have the skills to make choices for themselves and there's no breaking the diet because there's no diet. It's always about decision making and it's never about trying to be good or follow the rules or check the boxes.
Yeah, that's a freer way of thinking. You just eat what makes you feel better, right?
Right. Now that requires some consciousness, right? It's
Mhm.
it's a little bit of that's a very scary idea for people. The title of my book series is Eat What You Love and Love What You Eat. And that can be very scary for people who have been chronically yo-yo dieting most of their adult life. But the truth of the matter is, the fear that a lot of people have about losing control around food actually stems from restriction. We have decades of research that has proven that when people are restricted or restrained from eating foods that they really love, those foods gain power over them. So they'll be able to resist them for limited periods of time while their willpower is high and the circumstances are perfect, which is never. And then when it becomes overwhelming, when they break the restraint, then they will eat the foods and have difficulty stopping. So what that makes them think is, see, I can't eat this food. I lose control when I eat sugar, for example, or carbs or something, right? I lose control. They don't realize the reason they're losing control is because they were trying to control it in the first place. So, what we teach people through our trainings is how to be in charge instead of trying to be in control. So, being in charge means you're making decisions. You're deciding consciously with awareness of your physical sensations and needs, with your thoughts and your emotions. You get present to what's really happening in the moment. And then you're in charge of making the decisions.
Your success is our blueprint. The Health Coach Group empowers health professionals with the tools and strategies needed to attract clients and build a robust online presence. Take the leap to a successful practice with our support. Visit thehealthcoachgroup.com now.
What do you think about the shots that are so popular now? The How do you pronounce it? Is it semaglutide?
Yeah, it's hard to know. It's been a very short period of time, relatively short period of time. There's a few things that concern me about this. One is that we are we already know that restriction doesn't work and diets don't work. And it's not just about willpower. This is kind of one of the mistakes that people make in terms of just trying to follow a diet or be good or try this new thing. It's not just about willpower, but when you restrict or eat less than your body needs on an ongoing basis, your body will develop physiological compensation to save you. I mean, we
Mhm.
evolved during a time when food was scarce, and all of these physiological changes that take place are really survival mechanisms.
Mhm.
And so we already know with these medications, the drug companies themselves are already saying you have to stay on this for the rest of your life. And we already know from the research that when people go off, then they revert right back to where they were before. Not surprising. Now, of course, the drug companies have a lot of skin in the game because if you have to stay on it for the rest of your life,
A
that's
lot of
a
money.
customer forever,
Yeah.
right? So that's a little worrisome to me, but it also proves the point that just thinking that a shot is going to change this is really a misdirection. I'm also concerned about the longer term effects. We really don't know. We haven't had these in this kind of usage with this many people, these kinds of doses for this period of time to really know what the long term effects are. I can tell you we have a long history of failed weight loss medications, lots and lots of examples of where something looked like it was a miracle at the beginning and later turned out not to be. Now, having said all that, I will tell you that I have clients who are on it, most of them for a medical diagnosis. But I do work with people that are on this because as they say to me, under no illusion that there's a shot that's going to change my relationship with food. I want to change the way I think about the role of eating in my life and how I use food and how I've used food most of my adult life. And so they've chosen to do mindful eating while they're doing the other thing. That's
With
between them and their
assistance.
doctor,
Mhm.
between them and their doctor, but I'm quite happy to help them work on their relationship with food.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Mhm.
Um, if someone has a health condition or simply wants to improve their health, why is it often so difficult to make change that lasts?
Oh, I think, and this is where my 16 years of medical experience really has come into play. I saw person after person in my medical practice who maybe got a new diagnosis, diabetes or something else, and they begin a massive lifestyle transformation out of fear. Oh my gosh, now I'm going to die. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. And they often do very well initially. Now, my psychology background, I was a psychology major in undergrad. My psychology background tells me that people don't make long term decisions based on fear. And that ultimately, for true change to take place, we really have to come from a place of what is going to feel the best, what is going to serve me the best. We move toward the things that feel good. Restriction and deprivation and punitive exercise regimens don't feel good, and people don't do them for long term. It's why we talk so much about motivation. It takes a lot of motivation to do something that you don't like. And so, what mindful eating does with an inside out approach and how it can help people, even who have, in fact, we have a mindful eating for diabetes program. People who've had bariatric surgery obviously have restrictions in what their body tolerates. When somebody has something like that, we're really able to help them make decisions for their own well being that feel good, not being good, but feeling good. So
Yes.
it's a process. It's not something you're going to be able to just say to somebody, hey, this is a long term, it's something that they really need to work on and learn new skills to replace the old patterns of yo-yo dieting, which just show up in their new diagnosis.
Do you sometimes have a problem where you're working with somebody and you're going for long-term weight loss and you're saying, we want to work on mindfulness and they say, I want to lose weight fast.
Yeah, so
And how do you deal with that?
such an important question. So we are a weight neutral and weight inclusive approach. And what that means is we do not market our programs for the purpose of weight loss. I'm not saying that people may not experience weight change. They very well might, depending on what their original challenge is. But we're not there to change weight because weight isn't a behavior and therefore it is not subject to behavioral control. What we're doing is helping people learn how to make decisions that are truly lasting and truly can take them toward what they want. And so, any changes that occur, including whether they're weight changes or not, those changes that they're making in the way they're making decisions about eating often give them exactly what they thought they would get from weight loss, but this time it's actually sustainable. To answer your question, even though we don't mention anything about weight loss on our websites or in our programs, of course, because of diet culture, everybody thinks if you're doing something with eating, it's clearly for the purpose of weight loss. So lots and lots of our clients and patients come with that initial goal. So I don't try to talk them out of it. I understand, that we live in a culture that values thinness and demonizes fatness. I understand that a lot of times people internalize weight stigma and feel that their body is wrong and they need to change their body in order to be happy or successful or healthy. And so I don't try to talk them out of that. I just say, well, look, I guess you've probably tried to lose weight most of your adult life. Why don't we set that particular goal aside for right now and let's work on what's really driving your eating and see if we can get to the bottom of this, get to the root of this. And then we'll see what happens with your body because your body is your body's business. It's not my business. My business is to teach you how to make decisions about eating. Now, I want to add one other thing here, Cathy, that will be helpful because of your audience. You probably want the evidence for this. You probably, I hope you want to know what do you mean? Weight neutral, weight inclusive? What are you talking about? I had the good fortune to work with two PhD dietitians who we did a complete literature review and we published a paper in Nutrition and Clinical Practice in 2022. It is all about the evidence for why healthcare should be making a shift away from weight-centric care to weight-inclusive care. So I'll provide that reference for you to include in the show notes for anybody that wants to go look at that article. It's a very nice summary written from the perspective of the questions you probably have about this. And, it really has become one of my passions is to help health and wellness professionals understand that focusing on weight loss as the primary goal is completely missing the point and doesn't lead to long-term changes. So I hope that's a helpful resource for you.
Okay, thank you. If someone wanted to try mindful eating, what would be the first step to take?
Well, mindfulness is all about intention and attention. So, purpose and awareness. A great place to start is with awareness. So, this is what I would do if I didn't have any experience in teaching this, but I was just sort of curious to see how my clients or patients would respond. I would suggest to them that instead of focusing on what they're eating for at the beginning, let's focus on why you're eating in the first place. And we can do that by asking a simple question. Whenever you feel like eating, pause and check in and ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I having physical signs that my body needs fuel? This is the equivalent of driving your car down the freeway and seeing a gas station and then checking your fuel gauge. That's really all you're doing. You're deciding, does it make sense for me to pull in and fill up, right? So when you feel like eating, pause and ask yourself, am I hungry? Check in. Look for physical signs of hunger. And also notice anything else that might be contributing to your desire to eat. Has it been 3 or 4 hours that you've been sitting in front of your computer and you haven't stood up to get a break? Have you had anything to drink water wise? Are you tired? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you stressed? What's going on? That is a really great place for you as a coach or other wellness professional to start, is just to start asking your clients and patients to tune in to why they're wanting to eat in the first place. Have them come back and let you know, what did you notice? How often are you eating or wanting to eat when you're not even hungry? That will give you the confidence to know that for most of your patients, the issue of what they're eating is only a tiny piece of the puzzle. For most of them, you've got to start with why they're eating in the first place.
Okay, we talked a little bit about your classes just earlier. You have a complimentary masterclass, the Mindful Eating Blueprint, to solve 3 of your clients' biggest eating challenges. Thank you. We will have a link at the bottom of the podcast where people can access that. And then you also have Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat, a mindful eating program to break your eat, repent, repeat cycle. And so you've got 1 chapter of that free.
Yes. Yeah. That's another great place to start, both for you as a health and wellness professional listening to this podcast and also for your clients and patients. So you can download that chapter for free and you'll see the mindful eating cycle. You'll see the 6 decision points I've been talking about, and you'll see the comparison between instinctive eating, restrictive eating, and overeating. You can get that from amihungry.com. That's our homepage. On the very front page, just scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a place where you can download that chapter for free. And I'll send you a link to put it in the show notes as well.
And then can we get your books at like Amazon or Barnes and Noble?
Yeah, I would caution you. We have a lot of other sellers who are selling outdated versions of the book. And so you can try to get it on Amazon. The books were all of the books in the series were updated in 2020. So if you get it from our website, amihungry.com, not only will you be assured of getting the most current copy, but I'll sign it for you. So that's a better place to get it. If you want to get it from Amazon, just be careful because you may end up with an older version. Be sure and check the copyright.
Okay. And then tell us what your class looks like. What I picked up from what you said earlier, it's an online course that you go through at your own pace, and then you support people afterwards when they're working.
So to clarify, we do 2 different things.
Okay.
We offer programs direct to consumer, and we train health and wellness professionals to offer programs to their clients and patients.
Okay.
So when you say classes, it depends on what you're talking about. I think for this audience, maybe the training would be the most relevant. That training is self-paced and online. It consists of recordings of me teaching it to an actual group of live participants. So you get to actually see how it's done. And it includes all the facilitator guide. It includes PowerPoints and the book and the workbook and all the support and the business and marketing plan. And so when you sign up for training, you can fully expect to get everything you need. And this is one of my favorite parts about it, Cathy, is it is immersive training. So many health and wellness professionals have challenges with their own eating and feel frankly quite guilty and out of sync with that, or have challenges with their eating that they don't even recognize because they've been doing it for so long. So because it's an immersive program and you will go through it as a participant while you're learning how to teach it, don't at all be surprised if you come out on the other side with a whole bunch of new skills and tools to use.
That's great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it. This has been very interesting, and I think that what you're offering is very important. And I know that all of our listeners, or many of our listeners, can use this.
Well, I probably raised more questions than I was able to answer in this short period of time. So if any of you have questions about anything I said, you can email us at training@amihungry.com, and we'll be happy to answer that. That website also has loads of free resources that you can use with your clients and patients. We're all about educating others. So we hope that we've created some things that will help you start to think differently about how you're addressing these very, very common issues.
That's very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you liked what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating or review on iTunes.